I'm Charlie Rufino, and I have a partner, Jacques Pasquet. We are actually two developers who are completely opposites in character and personality. So I think that's been the secret of our success, because it's very hard to blindside us because we look at things very differently. So we have a brand. It's called the Net Group. It's a brand of boutique office buildings in Bonifacio. So we are the largest right now for office buildings, privately owned. And we're great believers in Bonifacio, so we bought 28 properties there. We have 16 buildings, including residential projects, joint ventures, and we have a total of about 500,000 square meters of development. So we're currently working on our next project, Net Park, our 7th building in the Net series. So this is our portfolio 1, composed of 5 buildings. You might have read about that, it came out in the newspapers. We have a partner here. We sold part of the portfolio in 2008 to the Citigroup Property Development Fund. In a few years, that was in turn sold to Apollo Global Realty. And recently, through a trade sale, sold to the SMIC, the Schumart Group. So every 4 or 5 years, when the fund ends, we get sold to the highest bidder. So these are our tenants. It's about 90% of them are Fortune 500 companies. And now we have our next portfolio, very different. It's the Net Group 2.0 version, very different from the first buildings, very full of sustainable features. So, okay, what we've done really here is we've been the pilot project for Verde, and this is the first official Verde project. The latest project, Net Park, is our biggest building. It's about 65,000 square meters of leasable area, about 130,000, including parking, etc. So again, the same curtain wall system that we had in Net 1. So if you see the sunscreens that epitomize the building, they call it the Tagilid building because our sunscreens go diagonally. It's not because you're drunk, it's really the building is designed that way. Thank you. So this is our portfolio 2 tenants. Again, some name brands. And I have with me today my gang, Bob Barreto, Celine, Rona. And we want to talk about the Net Group. It's not just about buildings, really a community. We have a great community of major tenants. But the fantastic thing we found out is that when you are trying to be a boutique office building and you try to cater to what people really want, you find out you really have a community of people. So what we've done is we have a specific group that does a lot of things for them. It's called the Lifestyle Group. So we get them to do things that they like. Whether you're into photography, you want to talk about travel, it's all there. So we do sports, arts, seminars, education. We had a very important sports game, well attended, the finals of our football competition, Globe versus Smart. So you can imagine how many texts went out that day. So what are the disruptive technologies that keep us awake for us in the office development industry? So we take a look at that, and we just don't want to be X'd. What has Skype done for long distance? Sorry, PLDT. But iTunes for music stores, Craigslist for classified ads. Sorry, I'm blocking it. Airbnb for hotels, Google Earth for area photography, and Amazon for bookstores. So what is our worry? How about this? Work from home. Maybe people don't have to go to offices anymore. Everybody can work in their homes, save on the commuting, very green, spend time with the family. So does that keep me awake at night? 3, 4 years ago, we were wondering, would that be a trend? Well, this is the answer. We have a nice picture here of Marisa Mayer, the Yahoo CEO, saying, we're now banning the working from home. We want to have a collaborative space. We want to have a connected company culture, and you can't do that remotely. And frankly speaking, if I had a boss like that, I'd rather work in the office, right? So this is my dream, amazing dream. One time I said, everybody's heard about Amazon and how they're going to the next leg using drones to deliver packages. So how about this? For those of us who have roof decks, what about an arrangement with Amazon so they can actually drop the packages? These drones are designed for 10-mile radius from their major e-fulfillment centers, and they can carry a package of 5 pounds and deliver it right to your doorstep. So what about if we become the receiving center in Fort Bonifacio? Let me now shift and talk about the Urban Land Institute, of which I'm the chairman, because this is the heavy stuff. We have a little bit about the Urban Land Institute.
Cities aren't made of buildings. An office isn't made of steel beams, concrete, and glass. And neighborhoods aren't made of streets, houses, and driveways. The most important material in the development of our world is people. Children, parents, teachers, leaders. And they provide the inspiration for everything we do. At the Urban Land Institute, more than 30,000 experts in the fields of real estate and land use volunteer their collective skills and knowledge to help communities around the world thrive. And to mentor the next generation of leaders through education and leadership initiatives that instill our passion for building the best possible future. Because it's not just the buildings, neighborhoods, and cities we develop that inspire us. It's people, their hopes, their dreams, and the lives they create in those places every day. The Urban Land Institute. Developing for humanity.
So that's a short video of the Urban Land Institute. I'm the chairman of the Urban Land Institute in the Philippines. And we're now going to shift to some of the studies made by ULI on the region and on the Philippines, because this is a very powerful R&D organization. And one of the things they have done is to do a study on challenges. So I want to make a presentation here which is very balanced. So we have challenges and opportunities. So let's talk about challenges that we have. And we just sponsored a big conference here with the Asia Society. We talked about resiliency in Asia-Pacific cities. So we have a lot of information right now about things to watch out for. So this is a JICA study. JICA is a Japanese agency that is very familiar with things like earthquakes, tsunamis. So we have an analysis of JICA. So the big worry they have, of course, the greatest hazard is an earthquake. Because in terms of business continuity, the effect to the business community is large, and the possibility of it happening with the probability of every so many 400 years, the Marikina Valley fault is also something that comes up in the minds of some people. So this is a very interesting chart. It's very hard to read, but this was a chart that was prepared by Grosvenor, which is a very large development company based out of London. They do a sustainability study of different cities all over the world, different countries. And if you take a look at vulnerability in world ranking, because they color it according to the climate, the environment, the resource, the infrastructure, and your community. So Manila is ranked 4th in terms of vulnerability. I mean, we're better than Jakarta, Dhaka, Mumbai, but there we are, number 4. And apparently in that study, they seem to favor a lot of the Canadian cities. Thank you very much, Richard. You're very sustainable and least vulnerable. And what is a surprising thing is that on the right side is a thing called adaptive capacity, World City Ranking. And here we're ranked 2nd to the bottom, next to Cairo. And that talks about reviewing you in terms of governance, institutions, technical and learning, planning systems, and funding structures. So this is not a very pretty picture, but this is how we are being evaluated by some think tanks. But I want to give you a story of where we came from, and this is a story we're going to get from our Emerging Trends study. So take a look at the JICA study. So the big thing is that Bonifacio, Makati, Ortigas, Quezon City are located on solid bedrock. The worries are, of course, areas in the Manila Port area, Pasig, Pateros are liquefaction areas. So they're very large areas in yellow. And luckily, Quezon City, Makati, Fort Bonifacio, which is over here, we're on solid bedrock. So we're ready. Than most, we have newer buildings, we have the systems. Areas like Makati and Fort Bonifacio have a preparedness study. But we have to be ready for our neighbors. Because as we know in Tacloban, etc., we have to be ready to receive those who are not as fortunate as us to be able to house them. So this is one of the things that we're trying to do for the Urban Land Institute. So of course, we have fault lines. Fort Bonifacio, this is the earthquake fault line of Marikina, not too far from us. This is the other political fault line. This is where Makati wants its border to be, so that means all of Fort Bonifacio will now be Makati. This is Makati, and this is Taguig. Surprisingly, very few people know that Taguig is much larger than Makati. And then you have, of course, Bonifacio over here being contested in terms of political boundaries. So that's a challenge because if you're developing, you want to be sure you're talking to the right government agency, right? Thank you. So we have a study, Emerging Trends for Real Estate 2014. And we're still talking about challenges for the Philippines. This is a study that comes from 250 experts on where they will invest for next year, for 2014. So this study is prepared and shown December and January. December of last year, and we showed this January this year. So challenges for the Philippines: transparency, political leadership, corruption, we've heard that all before, infrastructure, we are severely underinvesting in physical infrastructure, and have to be growing better than where we are right now. But there's good news. So let's talk about what's happening right now. For those of you who are worried about the gridlock in Bonifacio, two major projects are going to happen, which is going to change your way of thinking about Bonifacio. This is an approved public works plan. So we're going to talk about a Buendia underpass that's going to be prepared, and a new bridge called Santa Monica Lawton Bridge. It will be as famous as the Guadalupe Bridge in the future because this is going to be a new bridge crossing the Pasig River that's coming from Fort Bonifacio, 8th Avenue, and flying over straight all the way up to Shaw Boulevard. Because of the JICA study, everybody knows that in the JICA study, all the bridges of Metro Manila in a 7.2 earthquake collapse. All. That means also 7 bridges, not all. Okay, June, thank you for correcting me. Anyway, June, maybe I think, I've seen the foundations of this thing. I think that's designed for like an 8 earthquake. So maybe they took some suggestions from JICA on this one. So what happens is that Santa Monica Bridge, you come in from Fort Bonifacio, 8th Avenue, somewhere near the Grand Hyatt construction, you fly over and you drop into Santa Monica Street, fly over, drop into United Street. And if you try to imagine that if you're coming from Fort Bonifacio and you're going to Makati and you take that Buendia flyover, that's about 2 kilometers. And how long does it take you to go from Fort Bonifacio to the Mandarin, for example? When depends on the time, right? Let's say when there's no traffic, I would say 3 minutes. Is that possible? Yeah, I think so. So try to imagine coming from Bonifacio and getting to Shaw Boulevard in 3 minutes. That's the same distance. Point to point, flyover. Unbelievable. Well, we have to thank Babe Singson for that because he's planned that. Okay, the other problem, in the mornings going to Makati, traffic is backed up all the way into Bonifacio. Terrible. It's like 2 kilometers of going through. Problems are the 2 intersections. As you come down from the flyover, you hit the 2 intersections. You hit Paseo de Rojas and Makati Avenue. So what did they announce? They're going to do a grade separation. So I don't know if you notice this Pacific Star. So if you're going through and you're going to Pasay City, you're going to go into a tunnel and you're going underneath Paseo de Rojas, you're going underneath Makati Avenue, and then you surface closer to the Ayala Avenue extension side. So that's going to be great. That grade separation is going to reduce the amount of traffic. So we don't expect traffic to be backed up into Bonifacio. So those 2 major projects, hopefully finished before Pinoy's term ends in 2016, is going to radically change the traffic situation in Bonifacio. Bonifacio, unfortunately, is the shortcut for many people. The traffic that you see in Bonifacio, 80% or 70% of that is through traffic, people going to some other place. But by solving the access on the other areas like Makati CBD, access to Quezon City, it will alleviate traffic everywhere. And of course, I've been spending a lot of time talking to our neighbors because the DOTC is planning a public-private partnership program. And this is for an underground rail. I'm serious. Underground rail. Twin tube rail that comes from Bonifacio. I've just finished a series of presentations for Manila Golf to convince the golfers there to allow a tunnel underneath Manila Golf, their favorite golf course. And make sure they don't have vibrations in the golf course. It's going to cross Ayala Avenue because there is actually a box underneath EDSA to go through, which was done by Ayala a long time ago. And it's going to go down Ayala Avenue, and all those underpasses that you see, they're going to be stations, right? So you can come up where you have the underpass is going to be a station. So it's planned way ahead. Left on Buendia, then all the way up to the Mall of Asia. So that's going to be linking that with the airport. So another major project. How it's going to be funded and how long it's going to take? Well, it's a public-private partnership with DOTC. They're just getting the right-of-way arrangements right now. And Bonifacio, getting smarter. So this is at you tap BGC, you tap your card, do away with cash, getting money back. It's supposed to save time because we really have to move the people faster through the bus arrangement. And now we have a Waze. They have that app. So all the buses have that, so you can look at the panel and know where the next bus is coming. Okay, so as I mentioned, emerging trends is 250 interviews among the real estate industry done by PricewaterhouseCoopers and the Urban Land Institute. So what can we talk about the top trends emerging? People only used to invest in what they call developed markets. The usual, Shanghai, Sydney, Singapore, and what's happening in this list right now is where they are putting their money is emerging markets. How about, think about Jakarta and Manila. So the reason for that is cap rate compression. That's a term that I've been in real estate for 30 years and I didn't know the meaning of that term. But if you attend any real estate conference abroad, they talk about cap rate compression. It's simply like this. If, for example, you're willing to earn 10% on your investment, then you look for an investor and say, okay, I'm willing to sell you this investment and give you 10%. But what if that investor says, but gosh, if I don't buy your building, you're only going to get 2% on your money if you put it in the money market or an SD account. So I should only pay you 6% because that's at least 400 basis points higher than what you can get in an alternative. So that's what they call compression, interest rate compression, cap rate compression. What you're seeing right now is people are making a fortune because right now people are willing to buy your project even if it gives them only a yield of 6, 7, 8%. Before they ask 10, 11, 12%. So that cap rate compression means an increase in capital values. It's a tremendous knowledge for me to know that people buy you not on the basis of your location, the beauty, how beautiful your building is. It's when we try to sell our buildings, we look at all the architectural models and we show the location and we talk about replacement value. When an investor looks at me, he says, Charlie, that's not the point. I look at your buildings and I see a chart. It's only your inflows. It's a bar chart of how much money you make every year, how much money is going out, and on that basis, as a cash flow machine, I'm going to give you a valuation. So you are as good as the money you generate. So it's a completely different way of looking at things. And what determines your value is much more a function of the interest rate in the city where you're in or in the country where you're in. So take a look at the fortunes that have happened. Take a look at Osaka. Well, number one in 2007 investment for Asia. Look at that drop. Tremendous. 2013, from being number one, they were the bottom, number 22, Osaka. So this was probably after the tsunami. And what's that big increase over here? Abenomics. Simply when the yen went from 80 to 100, it inflated the economy. A lot of real estate people made money in Japan. So take a look about this chart for Mumbai, up and down. So in the conference I was in, we had a lot of investors, and they said, you know what India stands for? I'm not doing it again. Oh, it's a terrible thing to be said. But after this election, the talk is, I'm doing it again. Shucks. Because they have a new political leader, and a political leader is expected to make Mumbai the place to invest. Because it's so bottomed out, it has no place to go but up. It's like number 22. So how bad can you be out of 22? So it just gives you an idea that the political fortunes make such a big difference in how a country is going to be able to progress. So take a look at Manila. When we started doing the studies in 2007, we actually bottomed out at number 20 in 2010, 2011. We presented this study to the MAP CEO. The speaker was booed, actually, because to tell Manila at that time, 2010, 2011, that you are number 20 out of 22 was not a very good suggestion. People were asking, well, of course, you're there, June. So anyway, what happened was, take a look at that rise for Manila. From there to number 4 today. And Jakarta, from being at the bottom to being number 1 in 2012. Tremendous change of fortunes. And why? There are reasons for that. So, surprise, surprise, we topped the survey. People said, maybe a lot of Filipinos voted in that survey. No. 0.5% came from the Philippines on that 250 person survey. These are people who are investors, major investors in the region. Residential sector, number 1. Retail sector, number 1. Office sector, number 2. Reasons, young demographics, growing economy, low vacancies, large number of expatriates from multinational companies arriving to work. Manila offers the highest prime office yields in Asia, 10%. So we're there. The story is not only about call centers, but also now we're doing a lot of other back office functions, higher value, like finance, HR, etc. But the problem is access to the product in the Philippines is very difficult for foreigners. They don't understand how they can invest here. You got nationality problems, etc. So you have to go through a few hoops. On the opportunistic side, cap rates are in the 9 to 10%. You can buy a property that will give you 9 to 10% yield. That's very good, because if you buy something in Singapore, it's like 5% yield. Development returns are 15 to 20%. Okay. And as I mentioned, if you can get 350 to 450 basis points over your financing costs, you actually have mid-teens generating cash flow. That's about 17, 18% return. It's not bad. Offices take up 400,000 square meters last year, and it'll continue to be high. And Fort Bonifacio, vacancy rates at 1%. So, like in every conference, they have the money shot. You have one chance to show a city, and what can you say about the city, and why are you investing? So, this is a shot of Tokyo. I'm sorry if this stand is on the way. It says Abenomics and low interest rates. That's the money shot for Tokyo. Number 1 this year. The second rated is Shanghai. It's the emerging financial hub, high demand, and it's a showcase for China. What about Jakarta? Strong macroeconomics, huge population, a growing middle class, and very affordable. In Sydney, of course, regional powerhouse, transparency. Okay, so which is the money shot for Manila? This is a picture of Fort Bonifacio in 1999. And the BPO industries, young demographics, strong macroeconomics. And what's the picture in 2010? This is still without the Aura building. Otherwise, we'll block off this whole area here. But there's a lot of development going on. I think since the time this picture was taken, Sheila, correct me if I'm wrong, I see your face and your calling card in about 20 other buildings there, right, Sheila? So this is, if I show this to you, it says, wow, all those guys who bought property then are now made triple, right? Thank you. Okay, so thank you very much. This is my presentation. I think I tried to give you as much of a balance as possible.